Another type of analysis you might want to do is comparing one categorical variable with another. So for instance, you might ask whether the proportion of individuals or whatever we're looking at here with good outcomes differs between the control group and the experimental group. Right? So maybe a good outcome is staying healthy, a bad outcome is getting sick, and so you want to ask if the experimental group was more or less likely to get sick than the control group. So to do this analysis, we go to Analyze again, but this time fit y by x. And so the response variable in this case is outcome. We want to see if it was a good or bad outcome, and we want to compare that between treatments. So click OK, and so it's shown us a table. So on the top row of each cell is the simple count, right? So 3 of our samples were controls and had a bad outcome, right? And I can look at that 1, 2, 3. 8 were controls and had a good outcome. 5 were experimental and had a bad outcome, and so on. The next line is the percentage of all of the observations, right? So 3 as a percent of 22 is 13.64%. The column percentages, what percent in this column, right? So 37.5% of the bad outcomes were in controls, and then the final row here is the row percent. So in this case, 27.27% of controls had a bad outcome and 72.73% had a good outcome. And so now we might be interested to see if those proportions differ between treatments, and so we go down here to the chi-square tests provided. And so these are the p-values. So the prob and the prob here are the p-values of various different kinds of related tests. In this test, the p-value is really similar, so you don't really need to worry about what the difference between those two tests are in terms of the assumptions they make. That's totally not significant, and none of these are significant either. None of them are below 0.05. Now, if some were significant and others weren't, then you'd need to do a bit more digging into what these tests mean and what they are assuming. But if you get a result that, these aren't significant, then any which way you slice it, it's not significant, and you've got your answer.